Avowed was a Vogue disaster hit show. Bethesda couldn't do anything right if their lives depended on it. And for people who want something to rival Skyrim, Fallout, or any of these types of games, there is not a lot of options, at least that look good. But I do have something. I already talked about this before, and that is Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon. Yeah, a pretty long name, but who cares, right? Decent name anyway. And this game is exactly what you want if you're into Skyrim, if you're into Fallout, if you're into any of these things, because it actually is the most hopeful thing that we have here. And it's honestly disappointing that not a lot of people are talking about this, because they should. This is what we actually wanted from Avowed. Avowed got lucky with the fact that people just were hyped about it, but this is the actual type of game that we should be hyped about it. Because look at this. Look at this. Cemetery, guy on a pike, big sword, mana bar, spell, HP bar, stamina bar, consumables right there with the X and C. 10 out of goddamn 10 already. And trust me, this is actually good. This is something that you should be hyped about. But, talk is cheap. Let's see a little bit. And it's going to get better.
Bringing you a look at what will be the final early access patch or update for Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon, which I am able to do because Awaken Realms, the game's publisher, gave me slightly
Parrying hits, meaty hits that have impact? Bro, this is already better than Avowed just from a combat perspective. And the graphic styles, as you can clearly see, are your Skyrim-esque, Fallout-esque, but it's dark and gritty, which is good because it doesn't look like a kindergartner's playground. Again, this has so much potential, boys.
The early access to said update, which itself is actually launching for everybody on March 25th. So if you want to check any of this out for yourself, it will be available then. And what's more, there is actually a demo releasing on the 25th as well for Xbox and PS5. Following this big update, while there may or may not be a patch or two here and there to sort of clean up any glaring issues, beyond something like that,
looks pretty decent, I would say, even though these are probably some of the weaker looking enemies. I'm purely talking looks-wise, but hey, not bad, is it?
This is pretty much it until the game fully launches a little later this year. Last I heard, I think they were targeting summer, but, could go either way. That said, let's actually talk about the update itself, because it's pretty massive. It overhauls a few things. It also just straight up adds a whole ton of content, and in particular, though, I would say that a slight spoiler warning is actually in order, because this update finally kind of gives us the clear picture for the prologue and Act 1.
Look at this. Look at this, boys. That's called itemization. Bam, 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 bam. That's a lot of stuff. That is a lot of stuff. This is supposed to be like a two-set weapon system that you can use in each slot. Kind of like Avowed, but, you actually change items and weapons time to time, not just use the same skill for 30 hours straight. 10 out of 10.
For the prologue and Act 1, meaning that we kind of
look at this. Actual attributes, boys. Look at this. Look at this. You got strength, endurance, dexterity, spirituality, practicality, which who knows even what means, and perception. And all that goes with this. When was the last time you saw stats in a game like this? Never. Probably never. Oh yeah, or at least that game was probably Fallout New Vegas, let's be real. But yes, look at this. Again, we rarely get to talk about things that look good, feel like they're gonna be successes, and, we typically concentrate on the negative, but again, finally, we have something positive to look forward to.
kind of see beat for beat what is happening here, and while some of it's pretty obvious because the whole game is set around Arthurian legend, the story is pretty well, implemented at this point. And in particular, now with this update, we've got access to about a third of what will ultimately be the final game, and it really does seem to be quite the update. So straight away we've got that completely new prologue, which comes with a sort of, at the very least, approaching final character creation, at least on the cosmetic side, where we'll now have a bunch of different
Look at this. Faces that are not neutral gender yet.
different choices to actually make the character you want to make, so you're a little more able to actually customize and tweak what's going on here. And while it's a decent character creator, it's not exactly mind-blowing or anything. Still, nonetheless, a lot better than what was here previously. But after character creation, we, as always, have to escape the prison that we have been put in because we have the Red Death. But even here, there's a whole host of new things to see. New areas, additions. In fact, the two people that we would normally meet on the beach have been moved inside the prison itself, and you can kind of see them in the process of their own escapes. They've even added some mini-bosses. It looks like mini...
Bro, this already looks better than 99% of the modern day slop. Again, I am excited. I am excited for this one.
Bosses as well will have a little cutscene associated with them, and those mini bosses are probably as good a place as any to get a feel for some updated combat and everything, mostly down to animations and making the entire thing feel a little more fluid. And while I doubt the game will ever say reach like
not even Dark Souls.
Souls-like level of improved melee, it is definitely feeling a lot better than it did previously, at least to me. But realistically, melee combat is only one facet of the puzzle here in Tainted Grail, because we...
Okay, one thing I do have to say about this game is, I don't know about you, but watching combat happen is not that appealing in my opinion, especially a couple of spells. A couple of spells look a little bit wonky, but this is definitely the type of situation where playing this feels so much better than watching. Now, admittedly, I say this about literally every game of this type. I said about Dragon Age, the Veil God, which that was kind of half true. If you played a mage, you actually didn't hate the combat, which was surprising. Avowed, same deal, and this is definitely the same kind of deal. Watching is kind of like, playing is hell yeah, brother.
We have a whole host of magic at our disposal as well, and I would say they've really tightened up the animations and the casting here. And one thing I really enjoy about this system as a whole is that each spell you get has a sort of light and heavy version, which can actually differ quite a bit. For instance, one of the starting spells you can get is called Blood Transfusion, which will apply a bleed to enemies when it's cast in its light version, but the heavy or the channeled version actually absorbs health from the enemy to heal you, and that's kind of what you're looking at. Now, this sort of revamp also applies to things like summoning spells. Summoning spells will now sort of block off a portion of your total mana bar if that's the route you want to go. But even then, all of that doesn't even cover things like the new items for...
And by the way, yes, Arthurian legend, as said before, so, spells and all of that good stuff.
For instance, they've added spears in. We're also looking at what is likely to be the sort of finalized version for things like attributes and the skill trees and whatnot, so every time we level, we typically get like 1 point for each. And they've spread out the attributes a little, in part to accommodate things like the updated crafting systems as well, but for instance, dexterity will help you out with things like sneaking and everything as you might expect, but you actually need things like perception for extra sneak damage, and while you'll get it from both, perception kind of weighs more heavily. So you have some options, or at least some...
Oh, that's nice. That's actually nice. I like these. What's one of the things that I think is not touted good enough about Fallout and the game, Fallout 3 in New Vegas? And 4, I guess, is also kind of dead. It's the fact that you can play a build and you can use guns. That means you're not actually going to level strength. But you want to level strength because that means more carrying capacity. And the fact that, you don't need strength, but you want the carrying capacity is... It makes attributes feel just not free. It makes it feel a little bit more impactful that you're putting in attributes in something else, not that. Even though it's just carrying capacity, it works perfectly because you want those strengths there. But, you can't get them. So every point that you put in something feels just so much more impactful. that is one of the big things. Not just make strength do things, but make choosing not strength somehow feel, you lost out on something, but the other thing is just so much better. I love when games do that, because that just I love when things feel impactful. And this is one of the ways that you make it feel impactful. Like, if you want to play a stealth build, which is literally what I do every game, and any game that doesn't allow me to do it is bad by default, because I love stealth. It now gives you a choice. Do you want to be more sneaky, or do you want to be more sneaky with more damage? So what are you going to do? Your level going to dexterity or perception? Because it's going to be give and take, More sneaky, less visible, but less damage, and maybe you don't one-shot people, but, less sneaky, but more damage. And, again, give and take. It's beautiful.
Better spread in terms of attributes, it looks like, is what they adjusted there. And then there's the skill trees themselves. We've seen a little bit of this stuff previously, but it looks a little more diverse now, especially with things like crafting and other sort of tertiary.
Very basic looking skill trees. Beautiful. Skill trees are always good, even if they're basic. Now, obviously, if you make a PoE style skill tree, that's my personal preference. But the fact that you at least have skill trees gives you a sense of progression, okay? It's not the deepest thing, but even in Skyrim, it fucking worked out. 10 out of 10.
Systems involved. And between the skills, the attributes, as well as the various forms of
Look at this. Branching pathways that probably don't actually do anything, but it's a choice. Or at least an illusion of choice. And when it comes to stuff like this, an illusion of choice is 100 billion times better than no choice at all. You see? You see why I'm hyped about this one? You see why I think this could go far? Because it does all the things that you actually kind of want the game to do.
Combat, it looks like there's going to be some pretty solid builds here. Now, I did mention crafting there. Crafting has been around, but things like blacksmithing, alchemy, and cooking have been updated and just kind of expanded to be more generally useful in ways you would probably expect playing something like this. Blacksmithing is still by far the most in-depth, in my opinion, because you can do things like add artifacts or little upgrades to your current equipment. You can upgrade that gear, etc., to sort of keep it relevant, which has been the case up to this point, just kind of has a better UI and is a little more easily readable now. And while you do
leveling skills, even though it's superficial, good.
All of that with all your different...
Well, obviously, considering you have skill trees, you have levels, but you get the point.
Builds and all the new items and stuff. You'll also be able to take a good photo of it, as they added photo mode in this update. But
also, again, looks kind of good, doesn't it? Yeah, the graphics are not AAA, but how many games put bodies on pikes nowadays? I mean, you see this? You see that? Yeah, not a lot.
Believe it or not, all of that, basically everything that we just went over, isn't even really, I would say, some of the most exciting stuff. While I haven't gotten to fully experience the rest of this for myself, they've apparently added in romance, a whole host of new NPCs to add things like quests, dungeons for those things to take place in, that sort of stuff. And then they've also introduced the guild quest lines as well. I haven't fully made my way through that content by any means, so I don't have...
Do you not like what's happening right in front of you? Do you not? Really? Again, dude, this game deserves so much more hype. It really, really does. This looks like something that's going to be a winner, but it's not going to go to its full extent, because there's just not a lot of hype around this game, sadly. Like, people who are going to play it and they're like, oh, I like Skyrim, oh, I like Fallout, they're going to be like, hell fucking yeah. Just put the pipe in my mouth and let it flow, baby, because it's not slop. But again, it's like there's not a lot of hype around this. Even though this is the closest we have gotten to an actual game that could be a Skyrim killer. Okay? Well, I said that about the Avowed also before it turned into a Vogue slop fiesta. But, you know, that was very visible. This is already playable and whatnot, and it's good. They can't fuck it up in that regard. So, 10 out of 10.
have all the details of it myself, but excited to see it added in for sure. Now, even then, though, we still have a whole host of smaller little details to get into. For instance, they've overhauled the lighting, especially out in the open world, not so much the dungeon areas. This also comes alongside improved weather effects. For instance, the weird nights are especially dark and gloomy now, which is accompanied by an updated soundtrack, alongside smaller updates like, for instance, there's a farming system now to allow you to grow ingredients for alchemy or cooking. The house system should be in there now, which is great. And
by the way, look at this.
Alchemy or cooking.
Basic free asset for meat. I just want to point that out.
The house system should be in there now, which is great. And all of that, I think, really underscores just how massive this update really is. And
dude, look at this. It does look good. Well, again, you look at the fingers and you're like, holy shit. But it does look good.
And that is great, obviously, but it also, of course, isn't the actual 1.0 release either, which is what I'm especially excited for after having played this new content update because...
Sir, I'm a damn. I'm a damn.
Having played this new
Don't
content
worry
update
about it.
Because just straight away from the new areas, the better flow of combat, all of these revamped systems making...
Yes, it is, as you, a fellow human, must know very well. I mean, I'm not gonna say this is gonna be Baldur's Gate level of writing, obviously not. But it does have actual fucking character. Again, I am looking forward to this. I wonder how successful it's gonna be, because I don't see people playing this and saying it's bad. I really don't. But the question is how many people are gonna play it. Now, granted, it's single player, so who cares technically? But, you know, that's gonna determine a lot of their success. It's gonna be word of mouth. Anyway, this was for Mortismal Gaming. 10 out of 10. Bye!